Hey you! Yeah, you, watching the video. You are a zombies player, right? I just want to know what you think the reason is for modern zombies mechanics being disliked by a majority of the community, and maybe even yourself. Is it because the zombies community doesn't like change? Is it because these mechanics like adding armor and score streaks are a bad concept for zombies?
Or is it because people just like to hate on everything, no matter how good it is? Especially people on Twitter.com.
No. While each one of these reasons are partly the reason people do not like modern zombies, I believe there is one main reason that really makes players have a hate for modern zombies mechanics. It feels as if they are from a different mode entirely. Oh wait, that's because they are. And more importantly, they are just overall implemented poorly. Now I know, someone watching will say Call of Duty Zombies has always taken things from MP and used it for zombies, and people loved it. Look at all the World at War maps, 5, and Ascension. They're all campaign or MP maps. And you would be right, but you see the difference between the multiplayer versions and zombies versions is they were implemented in a way that fit the general feel of zombies, or even changed in small ways to feel more atmospheric to fit the zombie setting. The best example I can give is in Black Ops 3, where pretty much every wonder weapon or specialist is taken straight from multiplayer and put directly into zombies, but if you realize, no one complains. I would never complain about this, and it is because they are changed even if it's just visually to fit zombies and not feel like a copy and paste. Widow's Wine gives the player essentially semtexes, but when thrown release an explosion of webs, which fits the spider theme of the perk. It's small details like this that I love because I would never even think of Widow's grenades as semtexes. I would think of them as Widow's grenades, even if they function the exact same way. Or what about the elemental bows on Horizon Track, which just took the Sparrow specialist from MP, but added different elemental upgrades and changed the design completely to the point where the two don't even look close to each other. Imagine if the bows looked exactly like the Sparrow bow with a tipped arrow, but had the same effects. Instantly, just off that design, they would be less iconic and less cool because it would be a direct port from MP. The elemental and ancient style of the bow also just kind of fits Horizon Track, and the Undercroft area with the anti-gravity pyramid, which allows you to use MP's wall running and jetpacking when activated. Something as small as how its mechanic is obtained in zombies, even if it's something so basic, can change how players feel about it, just off of the creativity of it. Let's look at how Cold War, Black Ops 6, and even now Black Ops 7 attempted to add some of MP in Warzone features. Score streaks for these games are taken directly from MP and put into zombies, which you craft in a crafting table, which is on every single map. Remember when I mentioned the anti-gravity pyramid and wall running in DE? This is the only map it appears on in the entire game, I guess except for Rev, because Rev literally has DE in it, and Shadows where it has the 2 wall runs. But for the rest of Black Ops 3, it's completely boots on ground when Black Ops 3's MP and campaign have jetpacks all the time. Black Ops 3 takes these features and puts them into zombies in limited experiences, only on certain maps at certain times, when the devs feel it fits. Now, the score streaks and crafting benches are on every single map from Cold War, Black Ops 6, and will be for Black Ops 7. Already you can see the problem with the different ways features are used. Imagine for a second if there was no crafting benches in modern zombies, and instead of on a map like Terminus, you could do a side Easter egg or buildable, yeah, remember when buildables were actually on maps and they were useful, where you're able to call in a Hellstorm missile, but the Hellstorm missile is actually directing a poisonous explosive shot from Patient 13, the boss of the map, and would do the exact same thing as a regular Hellstorm, but just the fact that it would be unique looking and you need to do an Easter egg or build it to unlock it, it would make it exclusive to Terminus and would just make people love it 10 times more, and it would add more value to the map. This was even done in Black Ops 2 with score streaks. You have the Maxis drone on Origins, which is literally just a drone from MP with a new design that gains the ability to revive players. And one cool feature they added with this, so it could actually, work well with the map, is you could use the Maxis drone to collect gold coins for benefits, like getting a Pack-a-Punch MG08. See, that is how you do score streaks in zombies. And there are countless more examples of Treyarch previously understanding this concept. I think part of the reason that we have lost this creativity from the devs is obviously, a new direction from the studio, but also because, as I mentioned in my last video, Activision's weird obsession with combining all modes together and making them extremely similar to try to pull in Warzone MP players, which again, I will just never get over. It's such a stupid idea considering the multiplayer and Warzone communities are not going to play zombies as much as we are, and will probably play it, a few times or just grind the camos. Also, thinking that your fan base is so stupid that because they see armor plays with zombies, they'll drop everything they're doing and start clapping like a fucking seal to play zombies because armor means it's just like Warzone. It's such a stupid way of thinking. And while I'm on the topic, why the fuck am I able to call in a chopper gunner to come gun down a horde of zombies? Like, for one, who the fuck is in the chopper? And two, how are we just casually calling them in for help at this point, especially on Terminus, where our crew has been in prison for years and would not have any connections to Requiem, especially when they're not on the same side anymore? You can literally just call in airstrikers. Like, What? Who the fuck is their supplier? But anyways, now that we understand a lot of mechanics are not necessarily bad inherently because they are from Warzone MP, I want to talk about some ways I would want them to be implemented, and we're going to go through a lot here. First off, let's remove the crafting bench completely, and score streaks or equipment you can buy, as I said before, will be exclusive to maps or equipped in loadouts, and don't worry, we'll get to loadouts later. Self-revives are one of the important features that are stuck in the crafting bench, and the easiest fix for this is to just put it back in the default mechanic of quick revive on solo. There's no reason for self-revives on co-op, and quick revive solo ability was only removed in Black Ops 4 to remove crutch perks, which I'm not going to get into today why this was a bad idea. But Treyarch clearly isn't worried about crutch perks anymore, considering melee macchiato and fucking death perception exists. Again, I'm not going to get into this perk. You thought I hated melee macchiato? Oh my god, death perception is I'm not gonna do it. There's also no perk limit anymore, so crutch perks don't even matter if you could just buy any perk anyways. And quick revive has the augment, which allows you to be revived 3 times anyways if you get a kill with a ray gun. Self-medication. So Treyarch has no real reason why self-revives can't just be part of solo quick revive. Loadouts are probably one of the most hated parts of Warzone. Wait, what? No, see, that's how you know they got me. Loadouts are probably one of the most hated parts of modern zombies, and you can't talk about loadouts without talking about rarities, considering without the other would not work and are in the game to work together. So for rarities, instead of every gun being able to get every single rarity, every single gun would instead have its own separate stats, just like how guns would work in every game Black Ops 4 and before. But rarities would be tied to what attachments a gun has, so the more attachments, the higher the rarity. And stick with me here, this is exactly like Warzone. This is one feature I believe should work exactly like Warzone, because it lets guns keep their individuality, but having different attachments, making rarity have a use that doesn't dictate how good a gun is compared to the other guns, but instead how good it is compared to the other rarities of the same gun. I have to say too, I just can't understand the logic of, yeah, let's add rarities to zombies because Warzone has it, but let's change how it is to the point where it's just worse. It's like it's more like Fortnite than Warzone. As an example, if you had the hammer from Black Ops 2, the gray rarity would just be the stock gun, but when you get a blue, it would have a sight and a fast mag. When you get to legendary, you would get a sight, an extended mag, and much better mobility. And for the loadouts, they would work completely differently. So you could still make a loadout, but the guns you can choose from would only be pistols, similar to how Black Ops 4's loadout worked. And if the old point system were to be returned, we could even allow shotguns as one of the guns you can choose to spawn with, because it's an even trade-off. Pistol would get more points in early rounds, but you know, a shotgun has more killing power. We would also remove spawning with field upgrades. I think you could also remove tacticals and lethals as options to choose from. Like I said earlier, making them exclusive to each map is just the way to go. I mean, look at something like the Hell's Retriever on Mob of the Dead. We would have never gotten the Hell's Retriever if Tomahawks were just in zombies, unless they added an upgrade for Tomahawks, but it would just be so much harder for them to do something like that because it's already in the game. And for my final change with the loadout system is something I am calling the Dark Ether loadout. The Dark Ether loadout would be a Dark Ether designed pack-a-punch that can be used after you've already pack-a-punched your gun for 3,000 points, would give you the lethals or tacticals you choose and whatever your zombies build attachments are for that gun, which would make your gun be a red rarity, just like Warzone. See this right here, I think would be one of the best ways to fix every problem with rarities and loadouts, because it keeps them in the game, giving them some sense of familiarity to Warzone players, but also adds a sense of progression that zombie players love. And I also think when you do this, there would be no point of the tier 3 pack-a-punch system anymore. We could just have one default pack-a-punch, which is 5,000, and that would make your gun the most powerful it can be, and then you could take it after for another 3,000 points. Maybe we could adjust the price, I'm not too sure, but you put it in, get every attachment for your gun. And I think this would be a good way, because if you're trying to use a specific gun, you're like, oh, let me go pack-a-punch this the second time because I want to use all my custom attachments. But if you don't really have any attachments you care about for the gun, you don't even have to worry about spending it. Whereas now it's like, if you have a gray rarity, you need to get that to gold, or if you have purple, you need to get that to gold. You're never just going to stay with a purple gun or a blue. You'll never do that, because logically it makes no sense. You're just going to do less damage. And instead of having this rarity system, another thing we can use to fix it is just, you know, double tap 2.0. Double tap 2.0 in itself would be a much better option. I mean, we figured this out in Black Ops 2. I don't think we need to rewrite the whole thing. Again, this tried to get changed in Black Ops 4 with the pack system, but people didn't like pack punching like 5 times. And, you know, they decided to make, oh, let's make it 3 instead of 5 and make it more points. Again, I don't understand the logic, but whatever. For armor, personally, while I would just prefer it being taken out of the game entirely, I do think there are some ways they could be reworked to please both sides. First off, I think armor plates need a new design. Maybe something like injecting yourself with pure dark ether energy in a syringe. In terms of my new way that armor could work, I know a lot of people don't like replating manually, but personally, I don't think it would be too bad if it just wasn't needed as often. So instead of plating each armor plate, you will now only plate once, and it can only be done once to max your armor with a plate. So instead of zombies dropping armor plates that you have to pick up, I think instead the dark ether syringe would have a meter that would fill up and charge with each zombie kill, similar to a specialist or field upgrade, and I think could even replace the field upgrade system entirely. This, I believe, would make it so armor isn't something you need to worry about constantly, and armor would just not be as important to the mode, and it would act more like a temporary buff than a whole new system you'd have to worry about. Just injecting yourself every 150 kills or so and keep playing the game. And to avoid the main issue I have with field upgrades from this new armor system, that being how you spawn with field upgrades and don't earn them anymore, instead it would work just like the shield used to work, and you'd have to build it by finding parts around the map. Also, it could work like the shield in a way that after a certain amount of uses, or maybe the syringe can take damage whenever you are hit while having no armor. I think this would give players incentive not to want to be hit even more than they already do, and so armor could just be a system that, again, isn't a necessity for survival, but instead is a small bonus. They could also just give us masks again, like in Revelations, that have different abilities, obtaining them through Easter eggs, and depending on the mask would give different types of armor. Listen, again, I would rather armor not be in the game, but I think doing something like this would change up how armor works and give it some more character than, oh yeah, zombies just drop armor plates now. At least this is some dark ether item that charges off the souls of zombies. There's even potential here, like maybe if you kill a certain boss, like a mangler, and then inject yourself right after, you could turn into that boss, pretty much just using immune injections and integrating it into armor, but this will only work if there's no boss spam, which is not an issue I will even attempt to fix. It's just a bad feature in general that only caters to players trying to grind camos. And finally, this is probably my favorite change to one of the modern mechanics, and it is augments. As I said earlier, I actually think augments are pretty decent and I enjoy them, but I think they could be so much better. So first of all, instead of 3 different minor and 3 different major augments that you got to choose one from, I'm going to instead make it so augments only have 2 pathways that would fit different playstyles. I also think that the research system can work the same way it does now, but maybe extending how long the process takes, considering my 2 paths will have less to upgrade. Also, I think it would be cool if there was a way that, yes, you would have to upgrade the paths in-game and then equip them out-of-game, but when you're actually in-game, I think you should be able to buy one of 2 cans on a perk machine. So for example, you grab a red jug, and that red jug would be one pathway, and then like a yellow jug, and it would be the same, it would be the opposite, and it would be the opposite pathway. And while you'd come from the same machine, you'd have the option like hold square for red jug, hold triangle for yellow jug. So let's look at some of the perks and see exactly what I would do with them, just so you can get a general idea. I'm not going to go over every single perk because I think that would take way too long, and I think by the end of this you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from. So with Juggernog, what I think we should do is have 2 pathways that are camping and training. For the camping pathways, first upgrade, while standing still, all equipment and score streaks will last slightly longer. And I think this is a good change because, you know, it just makes it so you have a little more time with a chopper gunner. You have more time with, I don't know, a mutant injection where you take a few more hits because you have Jug and you're a mangler. Like I said, this would include my new changes, so it's not just like you could just craft these anytime you want. So I don't think it's too OP. And also I think it just fits because the majority of the time you're going to be using score streaks is when you are camping. For the second upgrade, while standing still, armor regeneration is slightly increased. This goes back to my point earlier and would work with my old system where there's the syringe that you have to get kills in order to inject yourself and get more armor. And I think it would just slightly buff that system. Maybe not a whole lot, maybe like 10%, 20%, but I think it would be a good change. For the last augment, we have Stone Cold Stronghold, which would work exactly how it does in Black Ops 4, giving you some armor and also providing a weapon damage boost. Again, Stone Cold Stronghold, not very OP, but it would work for the camping strategy, and it would diverge completely from the training strategy, which we will get into right now. So for the training pathway, the first upgrade would be when an enemy breaks the last armor plate while moving, the surrounding area of zombies will be stunned for a short time, aka reactive armor. Now, with regular reactive armor, it's every single armor plate that breaks, but since we only really have 1 plate now, and armor's not as consistently we're using it, I think that the armor plates will still obviously be broken up into 3, but you're only going to use it once, and once you get to that last plate, when that breaks, then it would stun them. And the reason why I did this is just to nerf it a little bit, because like I said, I feel like Modern Zombies is very easy, okay? And unless they did something about the whole way that maps are built, like maps are just really, really big right now. Like there's so much space to run around. It's almost impossible to die. Like look at Citadel's spawn room, for example. Like it's actually huge. And they'd also have to change how like the zombies AI works. So I think this would just be a small change that could maybe help that. For the second augment, we have damage done to armor plates while moving is decreased slightly. And this is somewhat similar to the durable plates augment already in Jug, but I changed it to be while moving, or at least like 3 seconds after moving. So if you were sprinting, 3 seconds after sprinting, you will take less damage. Maybe it's like a 20% less damage or something, but something that could save you if you were in a bad spot. And for the third and final augment of Juggernog's training would be Winter's Wail. Now, Winter's Wail is basically just a nerfed version of Widow's Wine from Black Ops 4, and I think it could work pretty much the exact same way. Like, I wouldn't want to give Jug Widow's Wine because I think it would just be way too overpowered, especially in a game where, you know, this game's already released. Like, trust me, we do not need Widows. And I've heard rumors that it might come back. I really hope not, because Widows is so overpowered. Unless they nerf it, like, they could nerf it. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Winter's Wail is a better option because it's way less overpowered, and there's a charge on it, so it would take longer. And yeah, I think this overall works for both sides. There's really only two options you have, camping or training. And this would change depending on your game. And like I said earlier, I don't ever think it should be something you can only equip out of game. I think that's a bad idea. I think unlocking it would be out of game, yes. But when it comes to equipping these, it should never be something that is done out of game, because what happened with Black Ops 4? The big problem with a loadout was once you selected your 4 perks, you were stuck with that for the whole game, right? So as I mentioned earlier, Jug would have 2 cans you can buy. It would be the camping and the training Jug, and it would be a red and yellow can, or maybe just 2 different versions, maybe a can and a bottle. Maybe it doesn't matter. It just have to be 2 different cans. What, you go up to the machine, you hold square for training, you hold triangle for camping. And maybe if you already have one, so if you already have the camping Jug and you're like, well, now I kind of want the training Jug, so you can go back up to the same machine instead of needing to like down and rebuy it or something. You just go up to the Jug machine, holds triangle to switch the pathway you want, and the perk would be 50% off since you already bought the perk before. So if it was 2,500 for Jug, now it is 1,250. So for Quick Revive, we have 2 pathways, solo and co-op. So for solo, as we know, this will be a default feature of the perk and will not be something unlocked in the tree. You will have your 3 self-revives on solo Quick Revive. This will not be a feature in co-op, and I just think this makes the most sense because the only reason why you need the self-revives in solo is because nobody can literally revive you. It just makes the most sense. In something like co-op, you have teammates, so you don't need self-revives at all. Maybe they could just implement self-medication again. Like, self-medication is literally already in the game. Why not just put that back in a gobblegum? It would make way more sense. So for Quick Revive Solo's first augment, it would be after reviving, gain a speed boost and enhanced melee attack. Now, this would be something very small, but I think it could be helpful. The second augment would be getting a ray gun while down. Again, similar to self-medication, because you're already going to get self-revive no matter what. I think it would be cool to get a ray gun, especially because on solo, sometimes the zombies can glitch out and just stand right above your body. So when you get picked back up, you just die instantly. So I think having a way to clear them out would be really good. Now, obviously, if you're on like a high round, this isn't going to do as much because, you know, the ray gun is obviously going to die off at some point. But I think this is a decent way of fixing those early round annoying downs. And for the final augment of Soul Quick Revive, it would be 1 extra Quick Revive, which I don't think is too OP. It would be 4 instead of 3. Not that crazy, honestly. I mean, if you've died 3 times, that 4th time is, I mean, come on. I think just giving 1 extra chance, especially for maxing out the augment, I think is pretty fair. And you're only able to use this on solo anyways. Now, for the co-op side of Quick Revive, I think the first augment could be reviving a teammate gives them a 15-second insta-kill, almost like the VR11. It's a very small change, but imagine when you revive somebody, they're shooting to try to protect you, but they can't. But as soon as they get picked up, they keep spraying and they can just mow down the horde instantly. I think this would be a very cool change, and it's just something I think is a fair enhancement for co-op. It wouldn't be useful in every situation, obviously, but there are certain situations where I think this would be very cool. Second augment, we have increased bleed out time by 25%. This would just be coagulant from Black Ops 3. It would just increase bleed out time, especially because a lot of these maps are getting bigger, especially in like Ashes of the Damned. Like, you gotta have time to get to your friends. So So I think just increasing bleed out time for co-op is a fair augment. And for the last one, if you go down within 45 seconds after reviving a teammate, keep all your perks you downed with. So let's say you try to revive your friend, as I said earlier, and you get him up, but as soon as you get him up, you go down instantly. And when you go down, that sucks as a zombies player. So what if instead, if you died right after or within the next 45 seconds, when you are revived, you will keep all of your perks that you downed with. I think this is honestly pretty fair, because when your teammate gets up, he's going to have that 15-second insta-kill anyways. He could spray them all down, and if you still somehow die, he already cleared out most of them, so he could just easily revive you. Now, while with every other perk, you would be able to buy them separately, like buy 2 different cans, Quick Revive is the only can I do not believe you should be able to. I think Quick Revive is the only exception, because there should be a solo use and a co-op use. So if you're playing co-op, it's going to stay like co-op. If you're playing solo, it's going to play solo. So let's say you're playing in co-op and one of your friend leaves the game or he exfils. Now you're like, oh well, but I'm stuck with co-op. No, I think what would happen is it would just automatically switch to solo, or if the game registers you're on solo, you could just go back up to the Quick Revive machine and just hold square, and it would be a free Quick Revive. I think that's the best way to do it. The last perk I'm going to talk about is Stamina, and this is going to be broken up into Marathon and Explosive. Now, Marathon, the concept is you're able to run longer, but you're not as fast as you could be, while Explosive is more, you can move a lot faster, but you can't run for as long. So for Marathon, we have walk speed is increased slightly, and I think this is just fine. For the second augment, we have run 5% faster when armor is equipped. Now, I wanted some type of boost that you get while using armor, and I think this would actually work, because you're the marathon runner, armor is supposed to be heavy. I think it would make sense you run slightly faster, even if 5% isn't a huge buff. It could be, again, this could be worked around. I don't know too much about how this would actually play. It could even be something more like 10. And for the last one, we have Infinite Sprint, which is what it sounds like. You can sprint infinitely, just like the modifier perk in Black Ops 4. I'm actually surprised that a lot of augments don't have Black Ops 4 modifiers. Like, some do, but like I don't understand why like Death Perception doesn't, which again, I'm not going to talk about that perk because it's like a fucking curse name. But Infinite Sprint is great. I love Infinite Sprint, and I think this would be a good change. For the explosive route, the first augment would be heavy weapons do not decrease speed while running. So when you're running with any type of heavy gun like LMG or some wonder weapon, you would run the same speed as if you were holding a pistol, which I think would be a great change, especially for this pathway. For the second augment, gain the ability to tac sprint. So now we already know that stamina up is going to be the only way you can unlock tac sprint now. So I think this is the best way to go about it. I mean, honestly, I could care less if tac sprint's in the game or not. But if it is going to be in the game, I think it should be obtained through stamina. I think that's actually one change Black Ops 7 made, which I really like. So I think it should go in the explosive, because it's explosive. When you tac sprint, you run for a short duration, but you run way faster than if you just run normal. So yeah, gain the ability to tac sprint. And for the final augment for explosive, you would have an increased movement speed by 15%. And yes, while some people might think that's a little more overpowered, I think it would be fair. Again, you could rework the numbers. I'm not too sure how the percentages would work, but I think the idea would be you just would run faster in general. Yeah, you don't have the infinite sprint, but you are still able to run in short bursts a lot better, which I think is a much better change. Now, while I could go into every single perk, I won't. It would take an extremely long amount of time, and I think you get the point of my pathway system where you get to choose between 2 ways depending on the way you are going to play the game. Before I go, I do want to mention there are a few other modern mechanics I didn't mention because I believe they're just small changes that don't need much explaining. For zombies taking place in the same universe as the campaign, listen, it makes no sense and really just limits what can be done with the story. And while this is not a mechanic, it affects what they can do with a lot of their mechanics. So I think just separating the 2 universes is the best way to go. Yeah, we're in the Dark Ether right now, but imagine if we didn't even have to worry about that. I think that would make things infinitely better. Boss spam can be fixed by just not needing them for camos, or just removing spam bosses in general. Maybe zombies could have an entirely different system where you could just have a much smaller amount of kills needed per gun that would be different for each map. So Ashes of the Damned would have gold, and DLC 1 would have diamond, DLC 2 would have dark spine, DLC 3 would have dark matter, DLC 4 would give you dark ether, and when you finish all the maps, you'd get a super Easter egg for camos, which would give you all pack-a-punch camos for all your guns. Now, this would be like something that not even multiplayer, Warzone, or campaign get. This would be a zombies exclusive thing where we just get even more camos just because we waited longer. Obviously, the downside is you would have to wait until the end of the game's life cycle to get all your camos done. So maybe not the best idea, but I'm just kind of throwing out ideas. Again, these aren't changes that I care too much for, because I think it would be much better if you just took them out of the game entirely. A lot of modern mechanics I think would be better if you took them out, but trying to find common ground I think is very important, especially in the zombies community. The point system I just think should be changed back to the original, and field upgrades should work how specialists worked in Black Ops 3, where that could be combined with some specialist weapon that, of course, needs to be crafted or unlocked through an Easter egg. Kind of similar to healing aura being part of the staff from Chaos. I think that'd be cool. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about these changes, because I don't think these are 100% the best way to go about everything, but I think they're at least somewhat decent ideas of how to implement these features better. And it's not necessarily my specific, oh, I need the 2 pathways, I need this. It's not necessarily that. It's more just, I think features need to be implemented more for zombies and not just ripped and ported straight over. Even something as simple as a design change can make a feature infinitely better, infinitely more iconic, and just make it feel like zombies players are worthy of getting something designed for them. Listen, I get it. You gotta make a Call of Duty every year, and it takes a long time to make these assets. So just use the same assets, sure, but just slightly tweak them like you did in previous games. But yeah, if you guys disagree with any of these, or maybe you have some ideas of your own, leave in the comments, let me know what you think, and I don't know, I'm gonna go like goon or something.